Hello, welcome to Pecan Corner. I'm Tina, and today I'm going to make a jambalaya mix that I sell at the farmer's market. This is an instant mix that all you have to do is pour boiling water over it and then just cover it and let it sit, and then add your own meat to it. So you can add your own pre-cooked meat to it. Sausage, German sausage that's been cut up and fried or left over after you've grilled, leftover roasted chicken, leftover shrimp. You can use up a lot of leftovers with it, or you could just prepare your meat and add it to it at the time without it being left over. This has been a really good seller for me. I can sell a package of it that makes 4 good servings for $3, and you add more meat to make it a larger amount to make it a filling meal. I also don't spice it very much because that way children can eat it. People that don't like it hot don't have to have it hot, and then people can add their own cayenne or their own Cajun seasoning at the table if they want. Alright, I'm going to start with rice. To get the rice for this is so brilliant. I wish I had had a dehydrator all my life just for using leftover rice. Put your leftover cooked rice in your dehydrator and dry it, and it becomes instant rice. And unlike minute rice, it actually tastes like fresh cooked rice when you're done. Just simply add an equal amount of boiling water over the amount of rice. So if you have 1 cup of the dried rice, just add 1 cup of boiling water over it, cover it, and let it sit for about 20 minutes, and it rehydrates beautifully. So all those years that I wasted rice, because it was just so hard to reheat it. So I dry it in my dehydrator, and sometimes I don't get it all the chunks out of it while it's drying, and so it'll still have these chunks in it. I think you can see that. And by the way, my hands are clean. I've been working with blueberries. I made blueberry pie filling yesterday, so they're all stained with those blueberries. But I find that putting it down in a bowl and then putting another bowl on top of it and then just mashing is a good way to mash up those lumps. This is not required for it to rehydrate. It will rehydrate just fine with these little lumps. They'll go away when you pour the boiling water over it. But it just makes a nicer product if I can get most of the lumps out of it. Since I'm going to sell it. It just looks better. Now I haven't ever tried doing this with brown rice or other kinds of rice than standard white rice. So you can use basmati, or you can use jasmine rice, things like that. But the wild rice or brown rice or red rice, I don't know how they would do. So you'll just have to experiment with them if you dehydrate them after cooking, how much water you'd need to rehydrate them, and whether they'd need to actually be cooked a little bit more or not. I've got my sheets for my bags for my food saver. I ordered these are the bags with, is it channels that it's called, Paul?
Yes.
I ordered a large quantity of these on Amazon, of the generic ones, because they're very expensive if you buy them retail. But if you buy them on Amazon, you can get them for a penny or 2 a piece. But you need the ones that they call them channel ones, and it's got a rough texture on one side and a smooth texture on the other. And you have to have that with Food Saver for it to work. You'll have to check with your brand to see. What I do in this is I found that it makes more sense if I mix the sauce ingredients and then separate them out into the into the bags, as opposed to mixing up all of it together and then trying to sort of separate it out. So I'm going to do 2 of them now, just to kind of show you how to do it. And then the recipe that I'm going to give you will make these 2 helpings. I use about 6 ounces in each package. I try to weigh it so that I can be sure it's accurate. And so what you want is 1 1/2 cups of rice per package. So I'm going to set my little bags right in here. And put 1 1/2 cups of rice in each one. Let's just weigh these because I'm going to have some addition from my, from my seasonings. Okay, so that's about 5 ounces of rice. Is what a 1.5 cups of the dehydrated rice weighs. All right. I ran out of my own homemade tomato powder, and so I bought more. I mentioned in my last video about how to make Campbell's tomato soup clone mix. This is very expensive to use in a product that you're going to sell, but I don't use that much of it in this one. And my tomatoes have started coming in, so I've started dehydrating my tomatoes again. If you're going to dehydrate your tomatoes to make your own tomato powder, you want to dry them until they're crispy and will break apart. So, you can use, and I don't seed them or peel them before I do that. So the next I'll go ahead and use this up, and then I'll use this container to keep some of my my tomato powder in. So, all right, here we go. We're going to start with 3 tablespoons of onion flakes. This will make 2 servings. 2 containers. 8 servings. 1. And this is great because you can use up all of your own home dehydrated things, or you can buy things. Onion flakes are fairly inexpensive to buy, so if you want to, you can buy them. 3 tablespoons of parsley. One tablespoon of dried celery, and we always use our leaves, our celery leaves. And the inside, those tender hearts, they make a real good dried product with the celery. And I need to run this through my blender. I dried some and put it in there without running it through the blender first. There we go. All right, a little bit more there. Okay. There we go. That's 1 tablespoon. I measured it 3 times, but it's 1 tablespoon. I'm going to use 1 1/2 teaspoons of black pepper. Let me go get my teaspoon measure here. And And remember I said it's not spicy. You have to have just a little dab of spice because it'll taste bland otherwise. But I'm very sensitive, so this is something that even I can stand. So I'm going to use 3 shakes of cayenne. 1, 2, 3. That would be about probably 1/8 of a teaspoon of cayenne. Maybe not even that much. A pinch of cayenne. We're going to use a teaspoon of garlic powder. We've had all this rain, and it meant that we had lots of humidity, so everything's sticking together. I'm going to have to chop this up before I can get to it. Alright, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder. This is garlic powder, not garlic salt. You don't want to use garlic salt in this. You need garlic powder, or you could use garlic granules, but you don't want salt in there. All right. 3/4 of a teaspoon of thyme, and I'm using ground thyme. Thyme is really good in these Cajun dishes that call for seafood. Okay. 1 teaspoon of salt, and I haven't tried it in it, but I've got some Old Hickory smoked salt that is nothing but a hardwood smoke and salt. It's got a little silicon dioxide to keep it from caking, but I'm real tempted one of these days when I make this to try that in it. Now you don't want too much salt. You need a little dab of salt, but not very much, because the meat that people are adding to it might be salty. So you want just a little small amount so that it can cook in with it when they reconstitute it, but not so much that if their meat's salty, you know, if they're using sausage or something like that that's salty, that it would over salt the food. So remember that. Right. I want 1/2 teaspoon of sugar, and I'll show you why I'm using 1/2 teaspoon of sugar. Because I'm fixing to use 1/3 of a cup of tomato powder. Tomato powder will attract moisture, and it will turn into a big old hard clump if you don't put a saltine cracker in each container, or these little do not eat packets. But you can use a saltine cracker. You could use a little bag of dried rice would be fine in it to keep it from caking. All right. And bell peppers. I use a mixture of red and green bell peppers just because they're pretty. I'm going to use a tablespoon and a half of each. So there's 3 tablespoons of dried bell pepper. And like I said, just the other colors of bell pepper, the orange and yellow ones, they are not pretty when they dry. They dry into this ugly brown color. But red ones and green ones dry nicely. And so if you have both, you can mix them both up. All right. And that's it. That's all I need to do. Let me get me a spoon. Well, I'll just use this that way I can measure with it. So I'm just stirring this all together here, and then I'm going to separate it equally into my 2 containers. Can you see how pretty that is? So you can use this to, when your onions, when you get to that point in the year when they all start sprouting and they won't keep any longer, you can put them in the dehydrator, and then you've got them dried for things like this. There's 1 tablespoon, and there's 1 tablespoon. There's 1 tablespoon with a bunch of the top stuff on it. And there's 1 tablespoon with a bunch of the top stuff on it. 1 tablespoon. I'm sure there's an easier way to do this, but for me it makes more sense to do it this way. I try to be sure I get the same amount of the top stuff too. You know, because those lightweight things will ride to the top. If I've done everything correctly, this should. Okay, now, this should weigh, it's right at 6 ounces. It's 6 3/4, and this one's 6 7/8. Well, that's all right. I guess I'm going to have more than that. If that's the case, that means I need to add enough rice to make 7 ounces. And let's see here. All right. Now then, my let me find my label here. I'll show you how much you mix in with it. My bread's cooling there. Okay. There we go. All right, you bring 3½ cups of water to a boil, and you stir the mix in, then you remove it from the heat, cover it, and let it stand for 20 minutes. Then you add your cooked and heated shrimp, ham, or sausage, or chicken, and serve. So it's a very simple, easy thing that people can make on, right after work. So let me get these vacuumed real quick, and then I'll be back. I realized that when I went to weigh a while ago, I had not put an empty bag on it, and so that affected my weight. So it's not as overweight as I thought it would be. However, it is slightly. This is 6 3/8. So I'm going to remove a little bit of the rice until it's exactly 6 ounces, because my water amount needs to be correct for the rice. And I don't want to remove any of the seasonings, because I want the seasonings all in there. So I'm just reducing a little bit of the rice here. It won't affect the amount of servings. It just will make sure that there's not too little water. All right, there we go. 6 ounces exactly. So now I know that when I put the instructions, and when people follow the instructions, they'll get exactly what they need to get. Now I'll go and vacuum them. Okay, there they are. They're all packaged. You can see this one, a sharp piece of rice poked through it enough to unseal the seal on it. So once in a while that will happen, and you just need to get a new bag and reseal it, or sell it right away. As long as it's used right away, it'll be fine. But I don't want one like this going out to my customers. So I'll put this one in a new bag. I package these just like I do my soup mix. I also have a ratatouille mix that I make. I use my packing tape, the clear packing tape on these, because regular Scotch tape doesn't stick very well to these bags. and I put it on the smooth side because that's prettier for the customer to look at than the rough side. The customer just can't see the merchandise as well that way. So that's what I do here. And I put the label on the front where they can see what it is. There you go, and that's it. That's it. All right, I hope that you have enjoyed this, and whether you're going to make it to have for your own use with your food storage, or to give as gifts, or even to sell at your own farm stand or farmer's market. I hope that if you like it, you'll give us a thumbs up, and please subscribe. Thanks a bunch.